Right, so welcome to Yorkshire Business Focus. Today I'm sat with Ben Wilson from MPM Ltd. Hi Ben, nice to have you on board.
Hi Ian.
So, to start off with, tell us all about yourself. Where do you come from? What do you do?
Where do I come from? What do I do? Well, I do a bit of everything. But currently managing director at MPM. I was born and raised in Bradford in Clayton, moving up to Ayton in the Yorkshire Dales when I was 13, and predominantly been sort of in and around the Skipton area since then. Currently living out in Sutton in Craven, and then commuting to Leeds every day.
Wow. Okay, brilliant. And so tell us about the business. What is it that you guys do?
MPM do fiberglass moulding, pattern work. So we produce moulds for other production companies. So we'll do the tooling for them, drop it on their production line, and then they're good to go. Obviously, that capability allows us to produce our own moulds and for our customer base to then do production runs of higher volume stuff. So anything from shower pods, water treatment and sewage treatment tanks, bath panels, shower trays, pizza ovens, parts for camper vans, parts for motorhomes, etc. So a fairly wide and varied range.
Absolutely. It must be a fascinating day at work for you to see what's coming in on a regular basis.
You'd think, but I'm underwhelmed by a lot of things in life, and I've been in it 30 years. So
okay. What motivated you, inspired you to start with the business?
Competition, really.
With who?
My dad set the business up in 1978. We've always been competitive. My dad was always one that he'd sooner crash. He used to do rally driving. He'd sooner crash going for first place than finish second. I don't think he's ever consciously let me win anything, and I've absolutely no issue with that whatsoever. And he set it up in 78, and I think probably from the age of 10, going in school holidays, and probably no different to a lot of sons out there where you sort of idolise your dad and thought, he works hard, etc. I went to work in school holidays, and then I always wanted to show that MPM could be bigger and better, and I could do a better job.
Brilliant. And so, what have you kind of learned along that journey? What have been the key learnings, and not only in the business but in life as well?
Probably. Well, a lot started with. I can sort of look back in the business, and I had bags of enthusiasm, and probably even more attitude. So I could see a lot of things that I wanted to improve. I could discuss a lot of things that I thought we could improve, but got my communication completely wrong.
Okay.
And I think it was a real I know there's some real positive stories out there for family businesses, etc. I don't think ours was a particularly plain sailing or joyful one, and I played my part in that, and I think that was the turning point of working with a business coach called Patrick Crayford. And he was probably one that sat me down, and I do remember having a real good rant in one session, and telling him exactly what I thought of my dad and a colleague of his at the time, saying that I've said this, we should be doing that, blah blah blah. And Patrick pretty much turned around and sat me down and went, "Yeah, you realise it's all your fault." And to which my words are probably slightly stronger, but I beg your pardon, have you not just listened to me for the last 30 minutes? And then we sat down for a bit longer, and I had that dawning moment of, oh yeah, maybe I need to change some of what I'm doing.
It's fascinating that you stayed sat in the seat to listen to that conversation after somebody has listened to what you said and said, yeah, it's your fault. It's fascinating you stayed in the seat for the rest of that conversation. What went through your mind at that moment?
Probably, I suppose by that point and that time of working with Patrick, it was probably one of the biggest turning points in sort of my life, especially from a business perspective. But Patrick was what I would class as a transformational coach, not transactional. So for me, I had a business mentor at the time, a chap called Phil Warrington, and again, Phil were a massive support to me in the business, and I take a lot of things from that period of time in my life. But Patrick, I think almost took my brain out, gave it a quick rinse under a tap, and then popped it back in once every couple of weeks. And I somehow he managed to unlock that I just wanted to improve things as quickly as I possibly could, and I realised that started with me, and it was that, I suppose, that self-awareness moment of, right, you need to be more self-aware, and if you want that change, then it's got to be you first.
I love that. I love the take your brain out and give it a rinse every few weeks, and that's, again, there's a will to change in order to actually go through that process, because it's hard work, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is difficult at times. I mean, you've got to be ready for it, because you're effectively, some of it just turns everything in your life on its head.
Yes.
And so that you've got that challenge, and you've got the whole challenge of, well, I'm just me, so why should I change and nobody else does? Why is it all on me? Why do I work? Yeah. So I remember back, years gone by, where it always makes me laugh, because Kevin Keegan, it was almost an excuse for shouting your mouth off, that you wear your heart on your sleeve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's, looking back, yeah, great, but it didn't actually get you any results. And so I think that side of it, whilst running a business and taking over the family business, and then trying to adapt and change so much of my own personal communication and performance, probably learning a bit more about your own personality. And I remember doing disc profiling with Patrick, and obviously got to a session, sit down, have a read. What do you think? Yeah, it's not me. It's not me, is it? Well, let's just read through it and go through it. And obviously, again, sure enough, we read through it one bit. Well, how do you respond when you're under pressure and in that scenario? That's a lot like me, actually, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
So all of that, and I think it takes its toll on those around you as well, because some people don't like the changes.
Interesting that.
Because a lot of people will moan about what you are like, and then when you start changing, it's sort of almost like, oh, you're not same as you used to be. Well, you used to moan about me then, so what's, isn't it not a good thing? Well, yeah, but you change, you're reading this and you're doing that for the business, and it did impact on a few close relationships, because I just threw myself heart and soul into it.
Brilliant. I think that's brilliant. Yes, because that changing relationships thing, it's as you change your style of communication, don't you feel there's a greater understanding of other people comes out of that as well? When you understand what drives you to miscommunicate, which I think is what you're talking about, you can then hear other people also miscommunicating, and you can kind of see underneath the surface a little bit more. And do you find yourself more compassionate, I suppose, is where I'm going? Once you've actually done that for yourself, you can understand where others come from.
Yeah, I think if you don't understand yourself, how can you be almost compassionate and empathetic with yourself? And if you're not going to work on that, how can you anticipate or expect to understand what somebody else is sort of going through, feeling, etc.? So I think that's another reason why it's tiring, because you become a lot more aware of how somebody else will be perceiving things, what you're saying, what you're doing, what some of their challenges might be. And I think the more aware you are of your own personality and how you're feeling, the more it sort of triggers things for within relationships and other people as well.
So how did that change the dynamic in the workplace then, once you started learning better and better or stronger communication skills?
I stopped kicking stuff as much, so that were a positive.
Less broken toes.
Yeah, because we didn't wear safety boots back then. I could run around with what I wanted. So yeah, I suppose it's the I was always big on the teamwork side, because my background was coming through the shop floor. I loved the camaraderie of how a shop floor works, the banter on a shop floor, etc., etc. So I sort of never really had any issue with the appreciation side of what people were doing in a day's week's work. But I would have a tendency to a chimp definitely wasn't under control. So one of my favourite books is The Chimp Paradox. And if something wasn't meeting the benchmark that I wanted or expected, then normally people would get to know about it quite quickly and quite directly, which does still work for some people. There's one of my colleagues, Nick, he's been with us 14 years, I think. He would still much rather go down and just go, that's not good enough. You need to sort it out, and this is what we're going to do about it. And it'd be quite a quick meeting. Whereas others be quite different. It'd be going into sort of more of the why, the sort of story behind it, etc., etc. Whereas, there is still a famous team meeting that the people that have worked with me longest still remember me drop kicking a bath panel across a team meet. We were stood in a circle, and I literally just drop kicked it across the shop floor in a meeting, and just said, if you don't want to hit the standard, there's a big door over there. I'm not bothered. I'll just do it all for you. Needless to say, fortunately, no, but I don't think anybody walked through that door. So the result that was achieved was probably okay, but the feeling for the rest of the team will not have been, a pleasant one at the time.
Yeah. Brilliant. So if you've got the communication sorted out, so as a business owner, what keeps you awake at night right now?
I'm fortunate. I sleep like a baby. So
what, you wake every 2 hours and cry?
No, I sleep like mine. They were really good with my kids. They slept through. Well, my wife says they didn't, but
brilliant. Another communication skill right there. Selective hearing. Yeah.
And I think it's, I will always face internally to support the team. We've just at MPM, we've just brought on a new business development lead. And part of that is because I would take care of a lot of it, but I will always tend to face internally when the challenges come, not externally. I'm not the chase of sales. I'm not forced to take it or leave it.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
If it's something to do with the shop floor, and I feel like the team I could do with some support, or I feel like I can add value there, then I would always go that direction prior to chasing new sales.
And do you think that limits the growth in the business?
Not now we've changed it.
Okay.
So now we've brought a new team member on. No, I don't. If I have continued, then yes, I think it would restrain the growth in the business.
Yeah. And how do you task a business development lead then in that scenario? Because presumably he's not just driving the marketplace, he's having to drive you as well.
Yeah, well, I think that's down to your teamwork and communication within the team. I think if myself and Tim are having good conversations and we're not getting good information about potential work coming in and looking at capacity and then balancing the team within that, then I think we're going to hit a whole heap of problems. I think one of the things that I enjoyed in initial conversations with Tim was that he understood a shop floor, and I think it's quite often overlooked what your production team and manufacturing facility will deliver. So anybody can walk in and go, check me out. Got you guys. I've brought you in £1 million order. How good am I? I'm literally brilliant, Anna. No, not really. No, you've done a great job, but we've got 3 years of work to deliver on that for you. And if we cock it up, we've got to be on it every day for the next 3 years, or however long a period that might be. So I think it's quite key in those conversations that we're working together.
So how do you put those conversations together to make sure that you don't finish up with £1 million order and that you do finish up remaining within the capacity that you can generate on the shop floor?
We try and keep, well, no, we do not try. We do. We keep the communication and conversations pretty dynamic and free flowing, but then we've also got various meetings in place. So I really, really, really dislike a meeting for the sake of a meeting.
Yeah.
But then I think jumping on the bandwagon of sounding all trendy in 2023, I think it was Shopify. Somebody put some on LinkedIn and said, "Oh, we've banned all meetings because we'll be more productive and blah blah blah." And in my head, I'm thinking, well, how rubbish were your meetings in first place?
Exactly.
Because we're in manufacturing. If you're not having a project meeting to discuss what's coming in, what steps, what's needed, if you're not discussing your results, if you're trying to discuss your KPIs on an ad hoc basis, and you're not sat down and you're not looking at improvements, we've put a sub team together for a continuous improvement meeting. So we're involving the wider team in that, in the health and safety side of it and everything else. If genuinely, if I said to people at MPM now, well, these 5 key meetings in a week, I'm just going to sack them off because we could be more productive, they'd have a dicky fit.
So what are the 5 key meetings in a week?
Well, team leaders catch up. So they'll have a kick-off meeting every morning at 6:30, just to check on, the full team's in capacity. We have a full team meeting every Monday at 8:00. So we'll update them on the plans for the week, reiterate anything that we might have missed on the previous week's Thursday meeting. We have a wrap-up meeting on a Thursday so that we can bring the team up to date with all results, how we've done, where we've succeeded, and tend to use that as a praise mechanism to show some appreciation for where people have done well that week. An SLT wrap-up meeting on a Friday. It's a projects meeting once a week, normally on a Monday. There's a quick purchasing update. Finance, obviously, but there's only 2, so they'll generally do it as and when. And then at 1:00 catch up just to check on capacity and that all product requirements, and we're going to deliver on what we've promised customers.
What's the attendance like at these meetings?
The Mondays and Thursdays full team.
So is that mandatory in the organisation, or is that just something that happens because people see value in the meeting?
Yeah, it just happens. I've never really had to make it sort of mandatory and say you will be there. I think if somebody didn't want to be there, I'm not so sure they'd be here very long, because I don't think it'd fit with the culture. I think you'd see a motivation. I don't think the rest of the team would understand it, to be honest.
And did that happen instantly when you first started setting those meetings up, that everybody was attending 100%?
Yeah, because we're probably a smaller team. So I've done it with a football, I've done it with a table tennis ball. So we do it. We used to do it where it was a bit more, not so much mandatory, but we would ask everybody to raise a positive from the week or praise a particular team member if they'd supported in one way or another. But I dropped that because it might sound daft, and it might only be a quick snippet, but most people are extremely nervous about public speaking. So I think for some people, it put them under pressure too much to try and deliver something positive. So I just said, look, if you don't want to, it's not a problem, as long as you're showing appreciation. Even for me, some people I will still praise privately, because I get a much better result, and they find it a lot more comfortable if I just see them on a one-to-one basis. So I think it's just about knowing your team and sort of different strokes for different folks, and not giving up, because when you initially start that team meeting, is everybody engaged? No. Is everybody engaged at every team meeting? No. But if I can make a difference to 20% of people, if it's a Monday morning, you won't believe difference on a Monday morning or Thursday afternoon. Thursday afternoon's normally a lot more lively.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you're not having those team meetings, then, if 20 out of 40 people are listening and highly engaged, and 20 not so much, but there's still some key messages, there's still how the business is doing, etc., etc. But if you stop them, then those 20, it's not happening. And the same with it, we implemented an internal newsletter, and it went down really well. But you get the initial, oh yeah, that's good. you could give it up after 3 months, but that's not a lot of time. And people just, they might read one thing in a particular newsletter, and that might be the one key piece of information that they take away. And it's not thinking that everything's going to land every time. It's got to be consistent.
Putting value in there that people can pick from and choose if they want to take value from it or not. I love that. Yeah. And if you have 5 meetings in a week, so what's the longer cadence? What do you have on a monthly basis? What do you have on a quarterly basis?
Monthly, the SLT tends to be a little bit longer, where we'll look at the business plan and look at the accounts. So spend a bit longer on that. Then obviously quarterly, look at business plan and strategy review. Again, that'll be an update, right? Is there anything that we need to roll over or needs more work? Where are we going? What are we doing? And then normally at the end of every year, we'll do a bit more of a business, because our financial year's calendar year.
Yep.
So normally at the end of the year, or to kick off the following year, we will almost wrap up the year that's just gone. Mm-hmm. These are the plans for where we're going forward. And we will ask for the team input. So we generally do a vote on which team members lived the MPM values the most.
Nice.
So normally that's, there's 5 on the values, then an outstanding achievement. Can't remember what else we did last year. But yeah, we'll do that to wrap up our kick-off following year.
Awesome. So what do you see as being the major challenges in the next couple of years for your organisation anyway, or your industry?
I think everybody seems to be going through the recruitment challenge. It doesn't seem to matter which sector it's in, white collar, blue collar, whichever way you want to look at it. I think that's going to be quite a challenge. I think the after effects of COVID, to a degree, I think you've got a bit of crisis fatigue in society in general, not just businesses. I think that changed slightly. Me personally, I think, and I think there is a level of resilience in people seems to have dropped. It concerned me when we were looking at inflation going through the roof and everything, because it were almost like, oh, it's all right, because during COVID, government just bailed us out. We all got furloughed, and we were all right. And I think with other financial issues, I think some people look maybe a little bit short-sighted, think that somebody's going to come along and wave a magic wand again. And we all, we're all taxpayers. We're all going to end up covering that cost at some point.
Yeah.
So when people were taking pictures of themselves in the garden having a barbecue because they weren't working during COVID and living dream, and it's like, that we're all going to end up
one day.
We're all paying for that at some point.
Yeah.
So I think that side of it, I think there'll be, the obvious economic challenges and inflation. But at the same time, there'll be opportunities. it's a cycle that we've all been through before. I think the challenges are maybe magnified a little bit, but it's, you know, you can look at the natural cycle of nature and the natural cycle of business. It's, you know, it don't just go like that. It don't just flatline.
It's quite interesting. A lot of businesses can make a lot of money during times of recession.
Yeah,
there's a lot of growth that takes place if a business is well positioned. The leadership is looking carefully at what's coming next.
Yeah, it's, you know, I think one of ours, and it might sound like a bit of a blasé comment, but, you know, I know me and production leader, we've worked together for 13 years now, and sometimes during a tough week, you just go, we burnt down in 2018, we lost everything, and we made it back from that. So can't be that bad, can it?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's, let's, you know, shoulders back, chin up, and let's go. So let's go do some problem solving. It's, you're always going to have challenges. I don't know, you know, people often say, when's your quiet time running a business? I said, there isn't really. And what do you mean? And I said, well, if you're really quiet, you'll be thinking, where's the sales? Where's the opportunities?
Yeah.
I said, if you're really busy, you're thinking, bloody hell, have we got capacity to do that? How do we plan that? What do we need to do to set that in place to make sure we deliver on our promises? And I said, if everything seems to be going plain sailing, I go wandering about, because it means you're missing something.
Yeah, that nervous feeling when nobody's flagging anything up to you means there's something seriously wrong somewhere.
Yeah, I really don't like the old cliche that if you're a good manager and everything will be under control and you can put your feet up. If you got your feet up, it means you're doing a good job as a manager. I'm like, really? Because if I caught anybody with their feet up just going, yeah, we're all good, I'd be like, well, go out there and see what's next. If you've got a continuous improvement culture, what are you doing sat here? What are you going to discover sat with your feet up? At least be looking at your performance, look at all your data, go out into the factory floor, see where you can support your team more. Can the layout be improved? Are we missing something?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, go out there and, you know, even if it's going out there and talking to your team one-to-one, you know, and just try and discover.
You're going to learn something and improve something by doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might get that. Absolutely brilliant. Cool. If you were speaking to somebody that was thinking about setting up, going into business, what would be your top 2 tips?
Oof. Find a good support network. I'm not huge on networking. It's not my natural environment. And not something that I'd sooner have 10 really solid relationships than 100 maybe a little bit shallower. LinkedIn, unbelievable. Why people connect and DM you within 10 minutes, I have absolutely zero idea. Especially them that set off with I never really sell over LinkedIn, but my brochure's attached, and if you'd love to check out my services, rather than engaging with your posts and etc. So I think the network of people around you, find some people where you know, good advice, mentors. You know, there's plenty of good people out there that will share their experiences and knowledge. I suppose from a personal perspective, I don't think it harms to have a mentor or coach or peer-to-peer networks. One of the biggest changes for me was working with Patrick, both on a personal level and business.
So can we encourage you to go a little bit stronger on it? It doesn't hurt to work with the mentor or coach. Is there a bit deeper meaning in there somewhere, Ben?
A lot of times you can see things as a cost, not an investment. So I can assure you that my dad saw it as a cost.
Yes.
And, you know, just back to the family business, we had different ideas. I actually, and again, I probably would do it again, to be honest. I might communicate a little bit softer. But I had a conversation with my dad and said, look, 3 options. You can give me a pay rise, which I knew he wouldn't do because he'd see it as making my life too easy. Or you can use my pay rise and pay for a business coach. And he said, well, what's third option? I said, or I leave. but I'm not bothered which one it is. So I was 100% correct on the pay rise. He didn't do that. So I ended up with a business coach. And like I say, for me, it was the best money that MPM's spent, both from a personal level and for the business.
Yeah, isn't it incredible how a business coach impacts on personal life as well? I never appreciated that until I first met a business coach.
Yeah, we quite often send people on leadership training. We've used Rob Northfield and to Inspire in the past. We use Diane Mason at DMM training. And I've had people say before, I can't wait, and I'm going to improve this, and I'll add more value to the business. I said, don't worry about that. I said, it'll change your life. What do you mean? And I said, well, I'm not keen on the words work-life balance, because I'm stood on the same planet, spinning at the same speed, breathing the same air. I don't understand why I need to separate work and life. That's just me personally.
Yeah.
And as if you go on some really good leadership training, it should have a massive impact on your life. And the byproduct and default of that is you will bring a better person to the workplace. And when you do that, I do see the impact for people personally as much, if not more, than business.
Absolutely brilliant. I think that's a great message to end on, is that, Ben? Absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for coming on the Yorkshire Business Focus today. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak through the lessons that you've had and the lessons that you've learned from that. So thank you very much indeed, Ben.
Pleasure, Ian. Thanks for having me on.